Sometimes, using the word quantum in sci-fi movies to explain plot feels mainstream. So this movie explained the plot using nanotechnology. Let's dive into an awesome story which is kind of similar to the first Spider-Man movie. Be our subscriber and get more movies like this in the future. It is Moscow 2004. A bunch of scientists are observing an experiment involving a giant drill digging deep into Earth's core. One of the scientists advises Victor to stop the experiment due to an increase in seismic activity that could lead to an earthquake and destroy the city. But Victor is obsessed with the diamonds that he is going to get from the core. So he insists on continuing to drill and fires the scientist. Unfortunately, drill could not penetrate the diamond core. Scientists mention that nuclear power is not working and they need nanocatalysts which can produce a million times more energy, which will make drill to penetrate the core. Making of nanocatalyst was a forgotten experiment during the Soviet era. Nanocatalyst is able to produce nanofuel, which is 1,000,000 times efficient fuel. The project was shut down, but the catalyst is still stored in a laboratory today. In the present day, some construction workers found a car during demolition of a building. They pull out an old Volga car which is black in color and decide to sell it. Meet Dmitri and his friend Maxim, checking out a girl named Nastia instead of paying attention to the lecture. After the class, Dmitri and Maxim take a long drive in Maxim's car. On the way, they ask Nastia to join them. She agrees. Maxim tells her that Dmitri is his driver, which makes Dmitri angry. Later, disappointed Dmitri checks Nastia's social media. He also checks expensive cars that he couldn't afford. Next day, Dmitri's family wishes him happy birthday. His dad tells him that there is a gift for him outside. Turns out it is an old vintage Volga car. Dmitri is disappointed again. His local friends also make fun of him. In the car, Dmitri finds photos of old scientists and an old record disc. He decides not to start the car, but his family is watching him. He drives the car to the bus stop and decides to take a bus. At the bus stop, he helps an old drunk man to board the bus. As a result, he couldn't take the bus's doors closed in front of him. He arrives at class late, where Victor is giving a lecture. Dmitri explains to him why he was late. Upon hearing this, Victor challenges everyone and asks questions. He asked them who would not have helped a person to attend his lecture. No one raised their hand, but he asked the same question again with an offer of $1,000,000. Everyone raises their hand. Dmitri makes a new offer to him, saying that he will not help a person again in future if he gets $1,000,000 now. Victor agrees and puts money on the table and leaves. Later, Dmitri stops Victor and says he was joking, but he sees Nastia going out with his friend Maxim and gets jealous. Victor's man takes money, and now Dmitri regrets giving the money back. While leaving, Victor advises him that he has to live for himself. That is how he is going to get successful in life. Victor claims that he started from the bottom and now he is here. Upon hearing this, Dmitri asks how he started from the bottom. Victor tells him that he used to sell flowers. Next day, Dmitri takes a job delivering flowers. He delivers flowers using the car gifted to him by his dad. Meanwhile, Victor reaches the construction site where nanocatalysts is supposed to be. His scientists tell him that they did not find nanocatalysts, but only one container of nanofuel. He found blueprints of a car. Victor tells everyone that the device in the car is a nanocatalyst and they need to find a car. Victor and his men start looking for a Volga car in town. One day, Dmitri's father comes with him while he is going to deliver flowers. He sees a man stealing a woman's purse on the road. He gets out of the car and stops the guy. Victor's guys are there too. They start following Dmitri. In the car, Dmitri gets in an argument with his father by telling him that he shouldn't have beat that guy. His gang members might come after him. His father says with great powers comes great responsibility. Just kidding. He gets angry and gets out of the car. Dmitri notices that some guys are following him, assuming that they are gang members. He tries to evade them. Suddenly his car starts flying like in the Harry Potter movie. Dmitri is terrified. His car flies high in the sky. Victor's guy watches it. Old man from earlier watches it, thinking that he is hallucinating. In the end, he lands on a pile of tires. He leaves the car there and runs away. Victor is disappointed to hear that the nanocatalyst is used for car engines instead of the world's strongest drill. His men told Victor that there were flowers in the car, so they will check all flower shops in the town. Victor thinks about flying cars and asks Maxim if he knows anyone that can play old record discs. Maxim takes him to a club where the DJ is playing. Dmitri plays an old record disc on the DJ's machine and watches his crush dancing with his friend. He tracks down the owner of the record. They were the same scientist who worked on nanocatalysts in the Soviet era. The project was classified, but Dmitri claims that he is a journalist and the project is open to the public now. This old scientist couple tells him about the project. They tell him that they found a crystal from the moon which can decompose into any substance. They used it to increase fuel power and called it nanocatalyst. It was originally invented by their partner Mikhail, who was fired from the project. They used a nano catalyst on the car to lift it up in the air, but they failed and the project was shut down. They also told him that the car is powered by nano fuel and there is extra reserved fuel in the car which will help the movie plot later. While leaving their house, the lady scientist gives him a book which is a manual of the flying car. Dmitri got back to the location where he left the car. He gets a call from his boss and he asks him to deliver more flowers. While stuck in traffic, he opens a manual given by a lady scientist earlier where he finds detailed instructions about how to fly a car. He tries it and fails initially, but eventually, he is able to take off. While in the air, he reads a manual about how to land the car. He learns that the car has an emergency parachute, but he is able to land on the top of the building safely. Dmitri starts to make flowers delivery faster with his flying car. He starts to earn more money. Old man from earlier again sees the same flying car. This time he throws his alcohol bottle in the garbage and decides to quit alcohol. Next day, Dmitri asks Nastya out for dinner in an expensive restaurant. She agrees. They go on a date where they coincidentally meet Victor. Victor smells flowers brought by Dmitri and becomes suspicious of him. Dmitri tells Nastya a story about his father. His father used to call his mom by blinking light 3 times. He asks her if she would do the same for him. He then drops Nastya to her home. Next day, Dmitri and Maxim fight each other over Nastya. Dmitri tells Maxim that they went to her apartment last night, which makes Nastya angry and she slaps him. Dmitri is now sad and had a conversation with his father. His father asks him to meet him and tells him things should not go on like this between them. Dmitri cries and gets into his car to pick his father up. Unfortunately, his father stopped by Victor's men and Thug from earlier scene. Thug told them that he is not the man in the Volga car, so they left. But this guy takes his revenge by taking Dmitri's father down. Some woman comes to Dmitri asking for help, but Dmitri is a changed man now. He became selfish and didn't help. Later, he found out that a woman was asking to help his own father. It is too late now and his father is no more. Dmitri now decides to become a good guy. He becomes a superhero and starts helping other people in need using his car. He saves people from fire, stops a truck with his car to save a woman, catches a man who is stealing a woman's bag and who is also responsible for his father's condition. He becomes a superhero. People call him Black Lightning. Victor is aware of this and sets a trap for Dmitri. He creates fake robberies so Dmitri would come. When Dmitri arrives with his flying car, Victor's men attack him using bazooka. Dmitri is able to evade the rocket. He takes out Victor's men and lifts them up in the air. He puts them on the rooftop of the building and leaves. Old scientist couple sees Dmitri on the news with a flying car and tries to investigate the reporter that came to their house. They found out that Dmitri is not a journalist and that he has their flying car. Victor is disappointed hearing that his men failed to capture Black Lightning, so he decides to reopen the old project and make a new car using nano fuel. He tracks down the scientist who invented the nano catalyst. He gathers a group of scientists, including an old scientist couple. He lies to them by telling them the Black Lightning project was his and he wants to make a new similar project with help of them. He gives them a new car and asks them to make it fly. One of the scientists tells them that they need moon crystal to recreate nano catalyst, but Victor gives them nano fuel that he found earlier and asks them to make it work. Meanwhile, the old man from earlier scenes gets better in his life and takes a moment to look into the sky to question his sanity. Maxim orders some roses for Nastya. Meanwhile, Dmitri and Nastya patch up and they hang out together. When Dmitri gets into his car, he sees that Nastya is about to be hit by an icicle. He flies his car and destroys the icicle, but roses ordered by his Maxim fall down. Nastya checks the name tag and assumes that Maxim is real Black Lightning. Later, she confronts Maxim that he is Black Lightning, and Maxim plays along with it. Scientists are able to make another flying car using nanofuel with a limited flying time of 3 hours. Unfortunately, an old scientist hears Victor's conversation about using nanocatalyst for a giant drill, which will be able to penetrate the diamond core, but in the process it will destroy the city's foundation and the city will collapse. He tells other scientists about Victor's real plan, but it is too late. Flying car is complete and ready to launch. Old scientist tries to escape and gets onto the roof. Victor gets into his armed car and flies away. Nastya and Maxim hear about the news about scientists struggling on the roof. Maxim acts like he is going to save him, but in reality he hides in the bathroom. Dmitri arrives there and gives her necklace given to him by his mom. Nastya tells him that she came there with Maxim and he is Black Lightning. Dmitri is disappointed again. He leaves and gets in his car. He meets old scientists. He tells Dmitri about Victor's plan to drill into the city's core using nanocatalyst. Victor watches Dmitri and hits his car. While Dmitri's car is stuck, Victor takes out the nanocatalysts from his car and runs away. Dmitri's car falls down into the water. Maxim puts snow on his hair and tries to show off in front of Nastya. but she realizes that she is in love with Dmitri. Victor finally puts a nanocatalyst into his giant drill. He starts it and it destroys the diamond core. Nastia turns down Maxim and tells him that he loves someone else. She calls Dmitri on his waterproof phone and asks him to meet her. Dmitri, underwater, with no nanocatalyst, remembers that old scientist lady said to him earlier that there is extra fuel in the car which will be useful for the movie's plot. He has now 30 minutes to shut down the drill and save the city. Meanwhile, an old scientist confesses that back in the time he was the reason for the failed project. He says that he wanted to separate his fellow scientist and his wife, so he sacrificed the Nobel Prize for his love. Dmitri arrives and takes down the nanocatalyst, which stops the drill. Victor now gets mad and tells Dmitri that he is going for his girl now. Dmitri checks on Nastia, but at the same time, Victor arrives at the party and kidnaps her. Later, Victor and Dmitri meet each other. Victor threatens to drop Nastia and Dmitri threatens to drop nanocatalyst. Dmitri flashes light 3 times, which his father used to do. Nastia gets his signal and she jumps out of the car. Dmitri saves her and he sees that she is wearing his necklace on her hand. He drops her to a safe place. Victor's attacked Dmitri, but he is able to avoid his missiles. But in the end, he gets hit by one and gets stuck on top of the building. Victor arrives there and Dmitri pulls his car down. He manages to get into his car and start the engine. He then takes down Victor by taking him into deep space and leaves him there. Victor's fuel is over, so he cannot get back. Dimitri's car falls down, but emergency parachute saves him. In the last scene, Dimitri kisses Nastia and we see that old drunk guy is now making healthy choices and decides to change other lives as well. There you have it. A story about a poor guy with a rich friend who lost someone close to him because he became too selfish. Then he decides to become a superhero and saves people's lives. His mentor, who he used to admire, becomes his enemy who throws his girlfriend from the sky. Be sure to like and subscribe for more recaps like this.